Welcome to the Good Intentions Show. I'm Tim Ray, your host, and today we have an incredible guest on the UI Media Network, and his name is Dr. Vern Morgan, and we are going to be talking about subconscious programming. He happens to be a subconscious researcher and expert, so we thought it'd be appropriate to have him on to talk about this incredible experience that we all are experiencing every day, and we don't even know about it. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Same here. I'm just so excited about today because this is something I've been following since I was teenager, late teenager. And I got into subliminal program, which we'll talk about the difference between that and the subconscious program that you talk about. But it's just such a important aspect of our lives that we gets no attention or very little attention, because you're talking about, as you know, the subconscious mind is about a million times more powerful than our conscious mind, what we talk about right now. Like this, we're in a conscious mode right now. So maybe explain a little bit before we get into what subconscious programming is, but a little bit about your background, why you are an expert in this for over the last 40 years.
Well, Tim, what happened for me is for about 25 years, I was an entrepreneur advisor. And I helped individuals that own their own businesses. And I helped them initially with business strategies and breakthrough ways of marketing and promoting their businesses. And then I moved into realizing that their personal lives had a lot to do with their success as well. So I began blending the concept of entrepreneurial science, okay, with personality or with the idea of psychology. And I was able to develop some pretty powerful tools, and a lot of people were having success.
Right.
But I noticed that inevitably, no matter how strong the tools or technology was I introduced for success, what they ended up doing is they sabotaged it. And we'd get something started, they'd be doing real well, it would come along fine, and then all of a sudden they self-sabotage. And of course, I realized, because an entrepreneur is one of the most challenging personalities to deal with.
Right.
A real entrepreneur, not an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur. And what I found for myself was, because I are one.
Right.
Okay,
And an entrepreneur being more the visionary.
well, an entrepreneur, it's easy between the two, because there's a dramatic difference personality-wise. An entrepreneur is an individual who is very creative, very driven, has normally some type of specialty skill sets that they develop in that, and they're willing to step up to the plate and be totally responsible. An entrepreneur is an individual who's also very creative, probably has very good skills, management skills, but they won't step up all the way. They want the umbrella.
Right.
So an entrepreneur is the ideal candidate for a franchise.
For managing, yeah, gotcha.
Entrepreneur with franchise,
Yeah.
it's like oil and water.
Yeah,
it just doesn't mix.
Got it.
So that's the difference between the two of those.
Not to get too far off topic,
Right.
but you got your degrees in audiology and a few different focuses which assist you in your subconscious
Absolutely,
programming.
especially the communications in those areas, because
Okay.
what happened is that when you study communicative disorders, that was part of one of my degrees as well. People say I have more degrees than a thermometer in a sense. But what happened for me was I had a chance to, when I was a graduate student, meet with Carl Pribram. And Carl Pribram, some people will recognize that name, is a neuroscientist. And he came to the university as a guest lecturer. And I was kind of a crazy student anyway. I was doing undergraduate and graduate work at the same time. And when he came in, I was involved in an anatomy and physiology class, and we were working with cadavers and that. And I never forget this. The number one brain expert, as far as I was concerned, comes in, he walks in, he picks up this human brain, and he holds it up in front of us and says, "I want you to know something. We know absolutely nothing about what this is or how it works. Now I'll start my lecture." And it was one of my big wake-up calls,
Sure.
hearing it from that level.
Right.
But what happened was, because I had to do a lot of work with the hearing mechanism, with language, the brain, things like that, it intrigued me. It got my attention. And of course, I was already using some what I would call now at threshold programming for myself, so that I could get through the university faster. So I was already in that mode.
You were applying it, not just learning about it.
Right. And actually, it was kind of neat, because I did have a short time to talk to him. And by the way, just not name dropping here, but the same time that Bruce Lipton was in Madison,
Right.
I was in Stevens Point.
Ah, okay.
Almost
and Bruce
at the
Lipton
same
being
time.
a well-known biologist
Yeah,
who
right.
basically is a forefather of epigenetics, in my opinion.
Right. So, but that's what was going on. But so it goes back to that. It goes to the research areas and to the science part of it, but then into the practical application of that knowledge. Now, this is way before neuroplasticity.
You're right.
This is before a lot of the new breakthroughs that have come through.
Right. Well, let's talk about that too. So you have this background since college and prior, and you have working with us for at least 40 plus years. So how when somebody's new to this, say there's this, our viewers out here are just like, wow, I never even really understood the subconscious mind. How would you break somebody into understanding what is subconscious programming versus perhaps our conscious programming?
Well, first of all, there are many different levels of consciousness.
Okay.
We tend to focus in on what we call the conscious and subconscious, but there's also the unconscious, which we can't leave out because it is a factor in all of this. But zeroing on the two areas that you're asking about, the conscious mind, basically, if you would envision an iceberg, is a good metaphor for it. You see an iceberg, there's a certain amount floating on top. That's what you see. And of course, down below is the major part of it's like a 90-10 ratio. So on the conscious mind there basically is where you and I are talking right now. We're aware, we're exchanging information, we might have a discussion, we make some decisions, stuff like that. The subconscious is the commander.
Good.
They run the whole thing.
I love this, and let's take this deeper when we come back from this break. We're talking to Dr. Vern Morgan, who's a subconscious researcher and expert, and we're going to be learning about our subconscious mind and our different brain waves and where we are and how we could actually program ourselves for success rather than sabotaging that you were alluding to earlier. We'll be right back.
Hi, Val Schwan, Director of Counseling at Cumberland Academy. We just finished a group teacher training with Jennifer Kramer from Imagine If. All of the exercises that Jennifer led were very impactful for our teachers to understand perspectives of our students and what might lead to a better increased understanding and a higher social emotional EQ. It was by far one of the most positive experiences I've ever had here at Cumberland with our staff. Again, we enjoyed it. It was fabulous, and our teachers can't wait to see her again.
Hi, I'm Tim Ray, founder of the United Intentions Foundation, where we offer resources and programs to help others awaken to the power of their intentions. One of the ways we get this great message out is through our UI Media Network, which is a platform for people to share their stories and wisdom on air on how they live a life with intent.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Kramer, and Tim and I united to create systematic change on a global scale. We realized that there were gaps in our educational system. Kids were going home every day being bullied, teen suicide was on the rise, and our Imagine If education program helps students understand that they have the ability to create the world around them through their positive thoughts and inspired action.
As we become adults, we often forget how our imagination creates the world around us every day, and how our intentions and our actions from that imagination determines what we experience.
Our goal as a foundation is to use the money raised to offer it free to kids, parents, adults, other communities, other nonprofit organizations, and teach them that they have the ability to create the world around them.
We are so grateful to this incredible cast of paradigm shifters who are authentically changing this world on a global scale.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Amy Dayries, a general and integrative dentist in Roswell, Georgia, and I'm also a spokesperson for the American Dental Association. You know, as a dentist, I tell my patients that the mouth is the window to one's overall health, just as the eyes are the window to one's soul. After working in general dentistry for the last 25 years, it has become my desire to offer good health resource information to everyone around me, empowering members of the public to become their best, healthiest selves. The Whole Healing Radio Show features practitioners from dentistry, healthcare, and nutrition about the cutting-edge techniques available. Together, my guests and I will show you how to implement lifestyle changes, achieve your personal goals for health, and heal the parts of you that may have been forgotten. When your health is intact, you can go on to manifest your ultimate dreams. Become the best version of yourself. Join me, Dr. Amy Dayries, on the Whole Healing Radio Show to learn how.
We are back with Dr. Vern Morgan. He's a subconscious researcher and expert, and we're talking all about the subconscious mind today. And we left off on break talking about how deep our subconscious mind runs, and that 10% is conscious mind and 90% is subconscious mind, like the iceberg, right? The tip of the iceberg. So we know, a lot of people know that 95% of our brain is used for our subconscious functioning, and that 5% on the average, 5 to 10%, whatever it may be, is for the conscious mind. So what are the different states of consciousness? Could you describe that, or at least brain activity, let's say?
Yeah, sure. So I'll do it this way, based on speed.
Okay.
Okay, so gamma basically is the fastest.
Okay.
And at one time they thought
Frequency-wise.
Frequency-wise. At one time they thought the gamma was an artifact of the measuring process. Now they're realizing it has a lot to do with creativity. The next one is, that we're looking at right now, is what we're in right now as we're talking here, and that's beta. Then we move into what the TM people were always trying to get you into in meditation, to move you into that level.
And that's alpha.
That'd be alpha. And then theta is the ideal learning state. That's where everything really happens. You take a small child that's 3, 4, 5 years old, because they spend so much time in theta, they can learn 5 languages without any problem at all. They're just like a sponge.
Because that's when you're literally in hypnosis. That's when, like Dr. Bruce Lipton refers to as hypnosis.
It's an alpha theta state. Everybody's a little bit different, but that's where it's at. And then, of course, the last one is really interesting, because that is delta. And delta has many different levels within it. And there's one level within it, what I call it deep delta. That's where the body regenerates. In other words, most people spend very little time in deep delta.
When they're sleeping.
When they're sleeping. So we know that Deepak Chopra and a number of people for years have said, you have a brand new body every year, because every cell's replaced and everything else. Well, the bottom line, that's true. But then you ask the question, well, then why if I have a scar here, why is that scar back still there after all this time? And basically what happens is that's not regeneration, that's a replication. So you're getting a new cell based on cellular memory. But when you go into regeneration, that's when the new cell actually comes in at its homeostasis level, at the highest level it can function at.
Huh. Wow, so that's a memory for that cell.
Absolutely. It's all based on cellular memory.
Now, so is it possible for the subconscious mind, if it was reprogrammed or changed that belief, that scar could go away?
Absolutely.
Wow, that's fascinating. And this is epigenetics, which we'll get into here in a minute.
Absolutely.
But first, I want to talk about now, Doc, is the original programming. And, as you referred to, as you say in the past, the first 7 years of your life, Bruce Lipton talks about first 7 years is you were in hypnotic state, or most impressionable time. That's why they say children are very impressionable, because they're walking around in this lower vibration of consciousness. So why is that so important to be in theta?
Well, the reason it's important to be in theta is that, again, it's the ideal...
For programming.
For programming. It's the ideal learning state. In other words, it bypasses the conscious mind altogether. So you're able to take in information into that, if you bypass the conscious mind, okay, to allow you to reprogram your beliefs that you have. And of course, your beliefs, your core beliefs, determine your choices and the way you perceive the world and everything else. But theta is and again, I refer back to alpha theta, because there's a sweet spot in there, in between there, that I have found for myself. But the idea is that any change that you attempt to make that involves the conscious mind. In other words, if you can't bypass the conscious mind and move into the subconscious, not only will it not change anything, but it'll actually make the old belief stronger.
And this is after the initial program, the first 7
after
years.
Initial
Later
program.
on, as we have developed these certain beliefs, on a conscious level and subconscious level that we
Right.
pull from. If they're
Yeah.
unhealthy beliefs, we're still going to play them out because that's the original program the first 7 years, right?
And we will actually look for reinforcements throughout our life of those beliefs. In other words,
We're scanning to validate that belief.
That's right, and only those things, because if you see, it's almost like envision that there was a statement one time, and I can't remember where it's at. It's actually in the log of Magellan, in his ship log, that the natives could not perceive the ships, the big ships, because it wasn't part of their reality. It was not part of their understanding. They saw something, but they didn't know what it was. And then the shaman comes along, those little one iota more than everybody else does, and explains what it is. So it's even to the point where
So they could even recognize it on a subconscious level.
It wasn't part of their personal reality.
Right.
It was in the actuality,
Right.
but it wasn't part of their personal reality. So each of us have a personal reality, but that's based on perceptions of the actuality. This is where quantum physics comes in, and
Right.
all the other stuff that we have to be aware of when we're talking about this stuff.
And we may have time to get into that. I do want to get to that. But originally, most important is the first original programming that we have is the first 7 years in our lives.
Right.
And if we've had a traumatic upbringing in the first 7 years of life, which a lot of people grow up in a dysfunctional family,
Right.
whatever those core beliefs, and could be a not enoughness. It could
Absolutely.
be, you may want to describe what are some core beliefs that a lot of us, you find commonly grow up in.
Of course, self-esteem is a major issue where we're at, where people don't think that they're enough.
Right.
Many times, you'll actually see an individual that so dramatic to where they're in front of a ice cream freezer at the store, and they're trying to make a choice between vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, and they freeze.
Right.
Literally freeze. They can't make a choice. They're so afraid that they're going to make a mistake because of, again, past programming.
The original programming.
The rigidity of that.
Could have been a parent yelling at them to make a mistake that they associate it, generalize it to even choosing an ice cream.
Ice cream,
Right.
and that's
Amazing.
It's basically, first of all, I want to make sure God doesn't make any junk. Whatever your definition of God is, that's fine, okay. But God doesn't make any junk, which means this system is the perfect system. Nobody could have designed a better system. The system works perfectly. The software has gotten hijacked.
Yeah.
And that's what's occurred.
Right.
And so it is understanding that what we're looking for is all these different, like the concept of always having to be on time.
Right.
Now, most people would think, well, that's not bad. Well, no. Why do you have to always be on time? Why does an entrepreneur drive himself? What's underneath being driven? Okay. Most entrepreneurs are very frightened children
I could see that.
at their core level.
Right.
So they do all these things so they don't have to deal with what's really going on
Trying
inside
to
of them.
proactively get ahead of the game so they could manage their present situation. Because
Absolutely.
they grew up in chaos.
Yeah. Well, they're
and they're trying
driven
to
out of
control it.
fear.
Right,
See, it's
yeah.
one thing to be driven because that's what you want to do
Right.
on a conscious level.
Right.
It's another thing to have all these external behaviors that people admire,
Right.
but never see what's going on at that depth core level within inside of them.
Right.
That's why they self-sabotage.
That's what my next question was, the self-sabotage. So these original programming years, first 7 years, when we're in theta, when we're in hypnosis, we relive these programs, and those programs you mentioned earlier could be not enoughness, could be procrastination, which is a failure program, right? Whatever it is, we live them out later on in our life, and at that point, you were saying earlier, is our conscious mind takes those old programs, the subconscious programs, and then puts them into action, right?
Yeah, that's what the conscious mind does. It looks like it's making a decision. It really isn't. It's the implementer. So you have this, you see something going on out here, you're moved from this core programming, you come up with this strategy. You think you came up with the strategy. Okay?
Right, yeah.
And then you act on it. But what you're really acting on is not what's going on right now. And literally, you're acting from the past. That choice was already made.
7 years, first 7 years of your life.
Yeah. So you're 65 years old, and you're making a choice. Even dinner, you're having dinner, and for years, you've avoided green beans or whatever it is. Right. And here we are, 65 years old, and you're still, because something happened to you that caused you to feel that there was something wrong with green beans. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's, a lot of people want it to be very complex. It's not. It's the small things. I have a statement. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
If I can observe you for 1 hour, I mean, really in your normal life, I can pretty much determine what your core beliefs are.
Right. Fascinating. You know, we're going to take another break here, and in our last segment, I'd like to discuss what we can do, threshold programming, and what we can do to program, and not so much reprogram, because I don't think you could like lay out a new neural pathway, but to program a new pathway where your conscious mind can pull from, rather than the old program that are not serving us.
And that's very important, that process.
Excellent. We're talking to Dr. Vern Morgan, guys, on subconscious programming. Fascinating information. Not enough time, but we're going to get into some ways how we could learn how to program ourselves in a more healthier way. We'll be right back. How you can stop sabotaging yourself. I'm here with Dr. Vern Morgan, and I think he's about to tell you just that.
There's great new technology which will allow you to change the old negative programming into very positive strategies. And we do that by using and delivering repetitively these strategies, bypassing the conscious mind and influencing the subconscious mind.
And to learn more, go to unitedintentions.org and click on Shop and make the authentic change today.
It's time to wake up, Atlanta. Wake up your inner self to the power of your intentions. Wake up to co-create the life you desire. Wake up to a conscious way of looking at the world with the uncensored Shannon McVeigh and the conscious voice of the South, Tim Ray. Tune in to Awaken Atlanta on the UI Media Network, sponsored by the United Intentions Foundation, and discover a whole new way of looking at the world as we bring to you everything from wellness to entertainment, motivation to current events, games, contests, prizes, and much more. Listen to us on Spreaker and watch us live on Facebook at United Intentions every Tuesday and Thursday from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. You can follow us on Instagram at United Intentions and on Twitter at Higher Intentions. We hope to see you there.
Welcome back to the Good Intentions Show. I'm Tim Ray, the host, and I'm here with Dr. Vern Morgan talking about subconscious programming. He's a subconscious researcher and expert for over 40 years. And now we're going to discuss, if you don't mind, Doc, let's discuss about what we can do to get rid of this or bypass this stinking thinking that we grew up with, and get into how we could program ourselves for success rather than for sabotage, which seems to be the ongoing theme that we all do to some degree because most of us grew up in dysfunctional families, right? So what is threshold programming, first of all? How would you explain that to somebody to quickly understand it?
Well, okay, I refer to it as threshold programming.
Okay.
And the reason being is that let's say that you and I agree that we've discovered a way to put a lot of brand new strategies together, okay? And we want those strategies, by the way, you're absolutely right, before we went to break, was that we're not trying to change anything that's there.
Right.
We're going to create a brand new neural pathways based on brand new strategies.
Best strategies.
Because if you don't do that, what you're going to end up with is reinforcing the old ones.
Right. You have to kind of ignore it and let it, through synaptic pruning, go away.
And the synaptic, there is an actual physiological process that could be measured over a long period of time, I'm sure, where they could actually see the new neurons being created and firing and wiring together, and then the old pruning going on.
Sure.
So it is, because if you put any attention on it, it's going to take energy and it's going to take some programming
So
time.
threshold programming is kind of like, for example, I know you mentioned this before, is you hear something, but you can't understand it. Your conscious mind hears it, but your subconscious mind understands it, but you consciously can't understand it. Or you see something, but you don't know what you're seeing, where subconsciously you see exactly what you're seeing. That threshold part, right? That sweet spot.
Well, and the best example of that is that everything that's in this room is being picked up by every sense that you have.
Right. That's the unconscious observation.
Everything
of
is
the
just
subconscious
is just coming in.
Right.
And thank God we have a filter.
Yeah.
Because we would go crazy.
Yeah.
If we were to be aware of all that information. So that's the first level that's out there. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
The next thing is that if you were in a room and there was a voice next door, people talking, but it was somebody that you really had a meaningful relationship for years, you could actually differentiate, even from that distance, that particular voice. You'd separate it out from everything else that's
From
there.
previous programming.
From previous programming, okay? I mean, that's how powerful it is. I just want to be
Right,
clear,
sure.
that clarity on it. So what we're looking at is when we take the concept of levels, if the conscious mind is aware, it picks up any information. So strategies are basically presented in speech, okay? Being an audiologist, in my background, I realized there's specific frequencies in speech.
Well, let me ask you a question. We're going to have a few minutes left. So
All right.
what you're saying is that speech is a probably effective way to be understanding what threshold programming is. But so if you're programming a new belief system at threshold, as you
Right,
say,
right.
you're saying new strategies. So strategies like I'm good enough. Strategies like what?
Oh, I'm good enough. I surpass my past experiences. I've overcome blah blah blah.
Okay.
The thing is that that's presented at threshold, which means the auditory system fires.
Yeah, right.
It fires. Okay. So something's being received through the auditory
Neural
system.
pathways being laid down.
Laying down. The key is that if the conscious mind were able to understand it, then it would be filtered out. In other words, it would be blocked. That's coming in.
Wow, fascinating. We only got a minute left here. So is there technology today that could embed directly into subconscious mind at threshold in theta and bypassing the conscious thinking?
Yes, absolutely. And it's basically based on delivering a set of new strategies embedded in a process of, could be what I call Destra beats.
Okay.
With specialized music.
So there's technology. Fascinating.
Absolutely.
Well, Doc, we got to continue this conversation further because this is fascinating information that we have technology that actually do reprogram or program ourselves for success and not for sabotage. It's been fascinating having you here, Doctor. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it.
We'll have you back and let's continue this conversation.
Yes. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right, guys, you've been watching the Good Intentions Show. Remember, you change your perception, you can change your reality. Until next time, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.